What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Profit Picks. If you are new, we do always start this show by being transparent. And yesterday took a bit of a step backwards. The baseball game that I played, Reds and Phillies, first five under 4.5, went over for the first five, ended up staying under for the full game. So didn't go the way that I planned. And the hockey game, the big angle that we had, didn't quite pan out. The game ended up 3-1. Didn't cash the over. So 0-2 day yesterday. We'll try to be better here today. Rob, how was yesterday for you?
Yesterday was Major League Baseball only. We won with Cincinnati first five, Nick Lodolo. They did have the lead after five, laid half a run, plus $1 in that instance, and then lost the St. Louis run line. St. Louis gets shut out by Vince Velasquez. I mean, sometimes you scratch your head, Skee. We handicap these things and then you say, how did that happen? And I think it happens more often in baseball than any other sport where weird results happen. But that one was a 5-0 Pirates shutout, so it's made us split for the day. Lose a little bit of juice money because the St. Louis run line costed us 23 cents, I think, on the money line on the run line. So come back at it today, try and make those few cents back.
Absolutely. Justin, he says, I love that you went 0-2 yesterday because that means Bookie's going to Philly today. Somebody, JD told me, he says he likes when I have a bad day before, I'm going to have a big play the next day because he says I usually do really good bouncing back. So hopefully we can have a bounce back here today. And I only want to talk about one MLB game. We have a lot of basketball to get back to. And I really only want to talk about this game because, they're trying to break a little bit of history here, right? And that game is Rays at Blue Jays. Rasmussen versus Berrios. This game opened even at a pick 'em pretty much. We now see Tampa Bay as high as minus 135 at DraftKings. So money coming in. Consensus is minus 130 favorite now. As far as the total, it opened at 9. We have not seen any movement there. Taking a look at both of these starting pitchers so far this season. Rasmussen, he's pitched 13 innings. Doesn't look like he's been touched at all. Whereas Berrios, he's pitched 9 innings in 2 starts, and he has an 11.17 ERA. Doesn't look like a guy that I want to trust too much there. My thought process here is simple. I mean, I don't know why you would be trying to jump in front of this team, the way that they were heading towards the streak and the momentum that they had. Nobody wants to be the guy to let the team down. That's how I've been saying every single day. And now that they've tied the record, they just have to win one more game, right, before they can maybe exhale a little bit. And this is that one game. So just seeing how well Rasmussen has pitched so far this season, the bullpen has been great. They're number 1 so far in MLB for Tampa Bay compared to how poor Berrios has been. I think at the short price, you have to pick Tampa Bay here if you're playing a side. And as far as the total, I do want to bring this up. Let's see if I can. I didn't set it up before, but let's see if I can share a screen here because I was just looking at it before we went live. And just share tab. Can you see this here, Rob?
I can, yep.
Okay, cool. So we're looking here at Berrios as a dog on the Blue Jays. 8-0 to the over, 5-3 straight up and on the run line. And I just think that tells me, because I don't trust Berrios. I don't think he's that good of a pitcher. I would think that's telling me that he's blowing up in a lot of these games. I'm looking for the final here. 9 runs allowed, 2 runs, 10, 7, 5, 4, 5, 4. The only thing with this here is I don't want to be betting full game overs with how well Tampa Bay's pitching has been. I think I would prefer to play the Tampa Bay side and maybe also just play a Tampa Bay team total here just because they've been pretty consistent as well. They've cleared that 4.5 number, I want to say, every game except for 2 so far this season. So, in summary, my 2 leans haven't got there just yet, but it's the only way I can think to play this game. Tampa Bay minus the 120 and Tampa Bay team total over 4.5. Any opinion from you on that, Rob?
Well, first thing is, Skee, simple rule. where Major League Baseball is concerned, and it applies to this sport more than any of the other majors. You said it right off the bat. You can't get in front of these trains in baseball. Streaks in baseball, you either get on for the ride until the ride ends, or you just don't play. But you don't step in front of them in Major League Baseball because they go and they go and they go. So I can't play Toronto. Jose Barrios, an interesting subject here, Skee, because I was listening to an interview during the game with Pedro Martinez, Hall of Famer Pedro Martinez, who said he asked permission of the Toronto Blue Jays to work with Jose Barrios. He thought that there's a lot, and obviously the guy's got stuff. I mean, he's been up in the league for four, maybe 5 years now. I don't know exactly which, but it's in that time frame. And he's proven he's got great stuff. But Pedro noticed that he doesn't have killer instinct on the mound. He wants to work with him. He thinks he can bring a lot out of him. We'll see if he's able to do so or not. But there are issues there with Barrios. The last time he threw against Tampa Bay, last September, 2 innings, 7 hits, 6 runs. It's not great. Drew Rasmussen, believe it or not, has lost, or the Rays have lost 3 consecutive games that he started against the Jays. However, the last 5 times he's pitched against Toronto, he's given up 2 earned runs or less. So it's not like he's been getting banged around a lot every single time. They just haven't supported him. The way they're finding holes right now, I'd be so afraid to go against run support in this one. So Toronto's got some issues in the bullpen, guys. If you're looking to bet this game, I see 3 that may be unavailable for this contest. If Barrios goes down early, there's a lot of stuff to cover with very few arms. So I don't know. The Toronto offense is really good, Skee, and I can't play total. I'll get to the total here real quick because I won't play the first game of a series total-wise because the umpires aren't announced yet. When I see the umpires announced an hour before game time or whatever, and I know who the home plate umpire is, then I could, let's start looking at totals. But I hate playing an over first game of a series and then finding out that the guy umping the game has the widest strike zone in Major League Baseball and calls everything a strike and you get an under out of it. So I always look for that. But to your point, there's no sense jumping in front of Tampa right now unless you want to get run over. We'll see if the streak ends here. I just wouldn't trust it to be on Toronto.
What you said was it caught my attention. You said Rasmussen is, and real quick, shout out to Darren, new member for the channel. I appreciate you. And for the members, I'm gonna let you guys know exactly what we're doing with the playoffs later on tonight. So look out for that. But what you said Rasmussen is 0-3, his last 3 versus the Jays, correct?
Yeah.
I'm looking at his starts now versus Toronto. I mean, his last one, he did go 5 innings. He didn't give up anything. So, or maybe he can't be 0-3, Rob. They won this game 1-0. So, that start was good. But the starts after that, not so great. Or the starts before that, not so great. March 3rd, he only lasted 1.2 innings, gave up 3 runs. They did lose that game 7-6. Time before that, he lasted pretty good, 6.1 innings. He gave up 1 run, but they did lose that game 3-1. And let's just look a little bit further here. Game before that, he went 4 innings and gave up 4 runs. And they lost that game 5-1. So the previous games before the last one, the previous 3, they did lose all of those. So that doesn't give me a whole lot of comfort in backing the Jays here. I still stand by what I said. You don't want to be that guy who let your team down. So I'll say this. I like the Tampa Bay team total over because I don't trust Barrios. And if the stats say that when he's a dog in a Blue Jays uniform, the game goes over, I think it has to do with him giving it up in this game. So I'll go Tampa Bay team total over 4.5. My guy Link looks like he's agreeing with that right there. And I still think even if they hit Rasmussen just a little bit in this game, the bullpen is not allowing shit after that. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Blue Jays bullpen can be touched. So I still feel comfortable with them coming back, similar to how they came back on the Red Sox yesterday. There were some stats that the prop queen. Um, I gotta be careful what I say on here. But that the prop queen shared with me, and it was just some numbers for Boston versus a certain type of lefty that they've had success with, and they got those 3 runs. She played Boston team total over 2.5. They didn't get anything after that once the bullpen started. So I could see that game, that same scenario happening here tonight. So Rays -120 and over team total 4.5. Any last thoughts on this one, Rob?
No, I think we probably are speaking the same language here on this game. You don't want to be the guy that jumps on Toronto and tries to be the hero and break the streak. I don't know that that'll happen here. Um, I just Ski, the last time somebody help us out here. Maybe I got bad numbers. The last start I have for Rasmussen against Toronto is on 9/24/22, September 24/22. You got something more recent than that? Because that was the 6 1/3, 3 innings, 1 run, where he ends up losing. Not his
You know
fault,
what?
obviously.
That's my bad there, Rob. I guess what I'm looking at here is spring training. He was getting touched
Oh,
March
okay.
19th and March 3rd. So the two of those that I mentioned were spring training. That's my bad there.
Okay. So, and regardless, anyway, I think all the numbers, if you go back 5 starts, and he had 5 of them last year, these are all recent, right? Since May the 13th last year, his ERA is 2.7 against Toronto. So 5 tries, they haven't really gotten to him at all. And their offense was great last year. So I don't want to be against Toronto Ski. I was happy to have a personal play on that side yesterday, and boy, oh boy, every ground ball they hit seems to get through to the outfield. So you don't want to be in front of a team like that.
Absolutely. Don't step in front of the Amtrak train.
Mm-mm.
Don't catch that falling knife, however you want to call it.
There you go.
You don't want to be doing that today. We're going to back the Rays or stay away. So that's my thoughts on that game. And I will make moves after I hop off of the show. I just wanted to come on and talk it out. That was the one game in MLB that stood out to me today. And I just do want to mention I'm still out of town. I will be back next week. And I have a lot of new stuff coming next week. We'll be going through every game on MLB as far as some way, shape, or form on this channel. So look out for that. And we'll be live betting too. I'm really excited for some things I have coming up. Let's get to some NBA here, Rob.
Yeah.
Um, we do have 2 games tonight, and we do have some games this weekend. We'll probably go a little bit more in depth on the games tonight. Maybe just slightly touch on the games for this weekend. But game number 1, Bulls versus Heat. This game opened up Miami -5.5. We're still looking at 5.5 right now. Total open 209. Dropped a little bit to 208.5. When I look at the injury report here, and I should also hit refresh, there was nobody on there for Chicago. Still nobody on there for Miami. I do see Jimmy Butler and Vincent both game time decision, but they're likely to play today. I'm pretty sure they'll be out there. Kyle Lowry, game time decision. He's a true toss up to play. So my thought process here, a couple different things. Number one, I just don't trust. I don't trust this Miami Heat team. I think they got some older guys, and I just don't think they're that good. They are 11, I think, 11 and 23, and a couple pushes as a home favorite. They're not able to win by any kind of a margin, so I don't know why you want to lay the points here. The body language that I saw from those guys, I mean, it's not inspiring. When they're down, you see how they look compared to a Chicago team who did not stop fighting. Chicago looked like they got that dog in them, and I can't say the same for Miami this season. Maybe just only Jimmy Butler. Um, and then, well, first let me finish touching on Adebayo has been terrible. Um, I call him Scam Adebayo. I don't trust him not one bit. And then you got Tyler, not a hero, and not playing the same like he was in the bubble. It's just not a whole lot to like for that Miami side. You got Chicago. I trust their 2 stars to put the ball in the basket.
Right.
We saw when the back is against the wall, one of them will take over. Zach LaVine looking, dare I say, Kobe-ish a little bit. The way he was hitting some of those shots, and I trust him and DeRozan. They'll just put them both at the top and attack Miami, whatever defense they want to play. Even if they play zone, I think Chicago will be able to score. And I trust Chicago defensively as well, the number one defensive rated team post All Star break, if I'm not mistaken. So you're giving them plus 5.5 again versus these undrafted players on Miami. I'm gonna take it. I think they're the better team. I think they get the job done outright. I'll sprinkle on that money line once again. Um, and what do you think about what I've said so far, Chicago and Miami, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, personnel-wise, Ski, I agree 100%. I mean, the situational stuff, sometimes it applies, sometimes it doesn't. And I would say the biggest situational thing here would be Miami having 2 shots at home to get this thing done. But I don't trust them at all. And if I had told you the other night before the game started that Kyle Lowry is going to go 6 of 9 from 3 and he's going to score 33 points, you would have said,
I
well,
would have thought it was
Miami's
a
going
Heat
to beat
blowout.
Atlanta. Yeah, if he's going to do that, they're going to win that game. He did that, and they still lost by 11 to Atlanta. Skee, they got out rebounded 63-39 in that game, minus 24 on the boards. Clint Capella had 21 rebounds by himself. So I went and looked at Vucevic season series against this team. Vucevic had a double-double in every game against Miami this year. The Bulls won all 3 games. If you're playing player props, maybe you want to look at Vucevic double-double again. The Bulls, I checked out their team total in this game. It's 101.5. They scored 113 or more in every game against Miami this year. And in one of those, I believe it was Zach LaVine didn't play. DeRozan played all 3. DeRozan, in fact, again, we're drifting off to other bets that you can make on this game. But if you're looking at DeMar DeRozan PRA, I think I saw that number at 31.5. He got to 34 or better in every game this year. So DeRozan's had a good mark PRA against this team every game. Vucevic is at a double-double against this team every single game. We just saw Capella get 21 rebounds against this team. Scam Adebayo, maybe it is because
Yeah.
he was nowhere to be found in that game the other night.
He
For
don't
the
even look
Heat,
like he's trying, man.
no, it's I tell you what, Ski, when you look at that team, and it's kind of the same players that we saw there last year, and maybe even in the bubble, but Strus, Vincent, and Hero, those 3 guys on a regular basis were making threes as a unit when they were playing really well. Every night it seems one guy plays, the other 3 don't play. And they're not going to win with one guy in Jimmy Butler. It's just not going to happen, especially against Chicago. We saw the other night, you talked about their defense. They were behind against Toronto when they ratcheted up the defense mid-third quarter through the fourth. Toronto didn't score. Toronto made that double-digit comeback look pretty easy. Again, I'm with you. If this game is close down the stretch, for those of you that are going to play money line, you trust DeRozan, you trust Zach LaVine, you trust Vucevic. These guys are closers. I don't know that the other team, aside from Jimmy Butler, has a closer. So I would look Chicago if you're playing full game spread. I want to just mention first quarter totals real quick because, again, this is something that you probably wouldn't guess. I know I didn't catch on to it till late in the season, but Miami, first quarter overs this year, 48-34 to the over. That's 58.5%. Number 4 in the NBA, 4th best over team in the first quarter. At home, first quarter overs, they're the best team in the NBA, 29-12, 70.7% over. It worked again the other night against Atlanta. I think that total was 58.5 for the first quarter. They got to 63. Tonight, it's a 7.5-point drop all the way down to 51 because of the opponent, of course. Went through the games, Bulls and Heat, 3 games this season. All 3 got to 52 or better. So if you're looking at first quarter over 51, that might be a way to look as well. Heat, first quarter over, 8-2, last 10 at home. The Bulls are not as good a first quarter over team as Atlanta was. They're in fact, on the road, they're the worst team in the NBA at going over. I think they were 16-26 on the road first quarter overs. However, like I said before, the number is reduced by 7.5 points here, all the way down to 51. And even though Chicago hasn't been great on the road, they did get over 51 all 3 times against Miami this year. So Miami's defense is a little bit broken, Skee. I think we both agree on that. They're not the defense that they were. Reasons to play the Bulls, reasons to play the props that I said, and maybe reasons to play that first quarter over. I think there's a lot of ways you can look at this game.
A lot of things to unpack with what you said there. And people were asking about that total in the chat as far as the over, saying it's a really low total here. I do agree. Um, I still think it has the potential to stay under, but I wouldn't feel comfortable playing it at this number. So I can understand you guys looking at overs. And Rob, I want to give you credit because the last time we were on here and you talked about playing a first quarter over, it hit, and the full game over did not cash. So this may be another one of those games, like he's mentioning, where you want to get in and get out with the total if you do expect points. Um, and we saw Chicago even versus that Raptors team ratchet up that defense in the second half. So that could be a very good call there, first quarter over 51 and a half. What I do want to say also is how many people, I mean, Miami is a good, he culture, all that stuff. They have a great coach. They've been able to play good team defense. But we sat here and we talked about how, and you mentioned it, Rob. Eric Spoelstra saw that their defense is not the same as previous years, and they try to beat people by outscoring, or trying to fix the offense a little bit here. When I look at both of these teams, I don't see anybody being able to slow down or anything. Uh, DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine, I guess you could say Jimmy Butler, but is he going to carry the load offensively and defensively too? And is he going to be able to guard two guys? Whereas the Bulls, you have Caruso who's going to be causing havoc. You got Patrick Williams who's going to be, clamping up. I see avenues for the Bulls in all facets of the game. So it just reinforces how much I like the Bulls here. Um, I would agree, get in and get out with your first quarter total. A couple more comments here. Bill McDonald, he did say Bulls team total over should be good money as well. Don't want to talk you off. That's kind of how we both are feeling, if the way we talked out the game. Rich Homie, really quick, saying, I personally wouldn't touch a Rays Blue Jays game. Wouldn't touch Rays Blue Jays game starter. He's giving a query here, saying when Berrios started since the beginning of last season, and he's playing somebody in the AL East, he is 11-3. So appreciate you sharing, giving reasons maybe to stay off of that game. Jeffrey likes Vucevic over 10.5 rebounds, Gobert over 12.5 rebounds. We'll talk about that game, but I'm not sure that Gobert is going to play. You'll get your money back if he doesn't. What up, Razor? He says you could try being sharp if you want to. Yeah, the Bulls were the public side in that last game, right? They won outright. That time of the year. Be careful. That's all I'll say. Luis, appreciate you tapping in. Team Cat Whisper says Heat coach looked lost the other night. Maybe he was just letting his team. I mean, the team didn't look like they cared. He probably just threw the game away right with them, thinking they had one more left. Luis says Bulls plus 5.5. Heat team total under 107.5. Saturated in the house says only way the Heat win is if Jimmy gets to the line 25 times. He might need a little help from the officials in this one. Usually, though, when the public is on one side, this is another thing. Go back to what Razor said. You can try to be sharp if you want to. And if you've been around for a while, you heard me talk about this with the Golden State series versus the Celtics. I would say, they're going to be good enough to beat the Celtics and beat the refs. When you're betting public teams in the playoffs, you got to know that's what you're doing. The refs are going to be blowing a whistle for that team that the public is not on. And you saw in that Bulls game, the Raptors were getting phantom calls. That was ridiculous. They were trying their hardest to give the Raptors that game. The Bulls beat the Raptors and the refs. I'll trust them to do the same thing here in this game. Did you have an opinion or a comment on that, Rob?
Well, yeah, thank God for DeMar DeRozan's daughter. She overcame the refs blowing the whistle, right? It turned them into 18 of 36. I'll say this, the potential for Gabe Vincent to be hobbled for this game also exists for Miami. If he can't go at 100%, that hurts as well. They had turned him into the starting point guard last 20 games or so of the season. He gets hurt towards the end of that contest. And as long as we're looking at refs, here we go, Skee. Lead official in the Chicago-Miami game tonight, Tony Brothers, with Josh Tiven and Carl Lane. And the second game refs, I will save for when we get there, but we got a whistleblower in the second game.
I think I know what you're talking about there. And we got to watch that guy Tony Brothers too. He's tricky, but
Yeah, he don't like some people, Tony, bro. He's angry.
yeah, it holds a little bit of a grudge there. Jeffrey's asking, what's the percentage of the money? It depends where you look. I'll just share two different sites, kind of saying the same thing here though. If you look at both of them, the Wager Talk odds screen says 75% of tickets on Chicago, 71% of money. Action Network says 80% of tickets on Chicago, 69% of money. So everybody's on Chicago wherever I look. And it was this way in the last game as well. So I'm not going to let it scare me off. A couple more
Even Joe
comments before we
Ranieri
go.
has no money on the Heat.
No, he knows it's over. He barely wanted to show up to the tip-off show.
he was conceding it yesterday, believe me.
Justin
Unbelievable.
says he has Bulls to make the playoffs plus 550. He said, you think it was Jay that we tell? Yeah, I talked that out with Jay on his show. I didn't end up taking it. I just took the Bulls on the spread and took the money line last game. And I'm doing the same again here. But that's a nice ticket. And I'm thinking we can cash it tonight. So good luck on that. I like saturated comment. I put it up on the screen, but he says, even if Jimmy gets to the line 25 times, it's a lot of DeAndre Rosen screams. Good point. And Jeffrey says they won't let her in the arena. So we'll see what happens there. More numbers on the Bulls game. DraftKings has 79% of bets, 75% of money. So it looks like the same thing. Michael says Bulls have become a public dog, and I am not scared. Let's move over to the next game for tonight. That is going to be OKC and Minnesota. Let's keep it smooth with the banners here, Rob. I've been doing all right. OKC Minnesota open Wolves minus 4.5. We now see them 5.5 point favorites. Total open 228 is up as high as 229. Let's take a glance at the injury report for both of these teams. It looks like for the Thunder, they will be without Pokusevski once again. Everybody else should be available. For Minnesota, Rudy Gobert's game time decision, along with Karl Anthony Towns. And I'm also seeing Noel game time decision. They'll continue to be without McDaniels, who's frustrated and broke his hand on the wall. And Naz Reid also out. I forget who mentioned it, but it made me laugh. It might have been Draymond Green. It's a little bit off topic, but the McDaniels thing, he says, I think it was him. He said, I took physics, and if your fist is hitting the wall, one thing is gonna move. Of course, he said something like that. It's not gonna be the wall that moves. It made me laugh. So, just made me think of that reading the injury report. How I feel about this game, I think OKC won't be as lucky in this one, right? I talk about all the time, all season long, when you see OKC on the schedule, you look at the opposing team's center. And for Valanciunas, throughout the regular season, he got played off the court. Now, last night, or the other night, he was killing to start the game, right from the tip. Second chance points, however you want to call it. He damn near had a double-double at the end of the first quarter. So, and also, they stopped going to him in that third quarter, and that's when they started to lose. In a game like this, with Karl Anthony Towns, I don't see Minnesota going away from their big man. Even if Rudy Gobert plays, which I don't think he will, he can get some of those second chance points and putbacks as well. So I think they'll really feast on the lack of size for the Thunder. And also think Minnesota, this is now a situation where when they played the Lakers, they were the less experienced team. Now they're the more experienced team versus OKC, and they're at the house. I just think it's a lot of things that favor Minnesota here. And after blowing a big lead like they did, I think they'll come out focused. I think it's first half Minnesota and full game Minnesota. Other than that, I like Anthony Edwards once again over his rebounds plus assists. He did cash last game at 11.5. It's still at 11.5 tonight. And like I said, I don't think Rudy Gobert plays. If he does not, Anthony Edwards is the second best rebounder on the team that's going to be available. And that's why I like to add his rebounds to his assists, because Chris Finch has also said that Minnesota is a lot better when he's using his talent to create opportunities and create space for others. So he wants him to share the ball and get others involved. So rebounds plus assists for Anthony Edwards, leaning towards Minnesota first half, leaning towards Minnesota full game. Can you talk me off any of those, Rob?
No, because I kind of agree with it, Ski. And again, well, let's just say this: New Orleans accomplished something the other night that the 7 teams before them couldn't accomplish. The 7 teams prior to New Orleans out rebounding the Thunder by 10 the other night. 7 teams prior to that had out rebounded Oklahoma City by 8 or more, all won the game. It goes to what you're saying about lack of size. You out rebound them, you can beat them. New Orleans out rebounded them by 10. They couldn't win the game. It just, to me, I don't know if everybody sees it or watched it the same way I watched it, but I just didn't see a lot of urgency out of the Pelicans in that game. And I think what you saw out of the Timberwolves, not only against the Lakers the other night, but down the stretch, the last 6 weeks of the season, you saw urgency on the defensive end, on the team that was coming together. Every Anthony Edwards interview I heard, all he talked about was team, 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 playing defense. And Mike Conley has been a pretty steadying force for that squad. So I kind of separate Minnesota and New Orleans in that way. Maybe I'm justifying things because I lost on New Orleans the other night and I want to make my money back against OKC here. But I do think, Skee, that they're going to win the boards in this game. When I went through the season series, and this season series, I guess you could take it with a grain of salt. These 2 teams have not played since December 16th. That's way back before Christmas. They played 3 times in like the first 5 weeks of the year. But in those games, the center for Minnesota, Rudy Gobert, twice. Here's what he had. He had 15 and 15 in one game. He had 23 and 16 in his other game. And one game he didn't play, Naz Reid came in and had 28 points and 9 boards against OKC. So the center position in general has been a force for Minnesota against OKC. The other thing I like here is New Orleans did kind of force the Thunder to shoot threes in the first half of that game. However, one of our favorite guys, Lou Dort, decided it was a night where he was going to make threes. And I don't know that that's going to happen again. But I'll say one thing. The 3 times Minnesota played Oklahoma City, they shut them down from 3-point range. The Oklahoma City Thunder against Minnesota this year, 37 of 123, only 30% from 3-point range. If that's all they shoot, I don't think they can win. I like Minnesota. And I'll tell you what else I like, Skee, is the fact that they played the other night overtime, and the starting unit, because they were so depth shy, had to play, every one of them had to play between 41 and 44 minutes. However, they've got the extra day off here. They played the day before OKC did, so they got fly home, get a break. I don't think those minutes, those hard minutes against the Lakers come into play here. They should be pretty well rested. I don't know. I just think Minnesota plays with a little more urgency than the Pelicans did. I think if the Pelicans played with a little more urgency, they would have won that game. They didn't. I like the Wolves. If you're betting total here, the number I think I saw before we came on was 228.5. Every single game in this series landed 222 or 223. And I think that's due to the fact that Minnesota is shut down beyond the arc for Oklahoma City. So, again, I don't think Lou Dort's going to get those threes tonight. Minnesota's proven they can defend the 3 against this team. I like Minnesota. I'm not going to play the total because I'm always scared of OKC's pace in a game. But I do think Mike Conley Jr. can slow things down. I'll say this. If you get Rudy Gobert in this game with Mike Conley Jr., the pace will be slower. But I wouldn't play total anyway. I'd look Minnesota. And the other night I tried New Orleans first quarter in full game. Might come back to the same thing here. I think the crowd Friday night here is going to be crazy for the Timberwolves, Skee. So maybe a little first quarter action on the Timberwolves as well.
Jeffrey says trifecta skiing coming.
Oh,
yeah, I'm liking it. I think, I'm going to have to put a little something on across the board. I think they come out early and often. After giving up that lead, man, you're going to be focused and you're not going to look back. Like you said, Rob, they're going to be at the house, going to be fired up. The more I think about it, the more I talk about it, I like it. I'm going to be involved here. Wolves trifecta. Uh, have to do it. So it's a good thing talking this out with you because I only like the first half and full game, but why am I leaving out the first quarter? I think that's a winner as well. Think we did a pretty good job here. Lots of comments, lots of different things people are liking. I do want to touch on really quick. We've been on for 35 minutes. I want to touch on a little bit of the weekend action because I haven't really broken them down too much with you here, Rob. I don't think we don't have to go too much in depth like we just did on these other games, but I do at least want to talk about them a little bit. And for you guys out there, like I said earlier, I will have a more in depth and letting you guys know exactly what I did take for my members out there tonight. So, Rob, Brooklyn and Philly. It's an 8.5 point spread. Total open 216.5 down to 214.5. I don't know how much I like to play this game, but the series, it's hard for me to see Brooklyn winning more than one game. I'll just ask you really quick: do you see Brooklyn winning more than one game? And I think we talked about this actually. You don't, right?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I made that bet already. I laid 2.5 games with the Sixers. It cost me $1.48 at the place where I placed the bet. You can get, it's generally universally about $1.50 for the Sixers to cover the 2.5. I think they win 4-1 at minimum. If you are interested in trying to pick up a big plus price, I think if you play 4-1 outright, it's plus 180. The only reason I didn't is because I could see a sweep here for the Sixers. And again, Skee, very, very quickly, it's reminiscent to me of the series that the Sixers played against Brooklyn about 3 years ago when Brooklyn was the same type of team. A bunch of little guys running around against a bigger Sixer team. Sixers had their way back then. And back then, they didn't have James Harden. And back then, they didn't have DeAnthony Melton or Jalen McDaniels to play defense off the bench and score, for that matter. So they've got a way better bench now. Their starting lineup is better now with Harden. So I think the Sixers probably win here. They won the season series 4-0, and Joel Embiid didn't play in 2 of those games. So Nick Claxton's going to have his hands full, as we all know, with Embiid. I was surprised, Skee, last thought here, I was surprised that the total went down. To me, just watching Brooklyn since the trade deadline, they haven't been as good defensively as I thought they would be when they acquired Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, Mikal Bridges. I thought those are all good wing defenders. But Jacques Vaughn has kind of chosen to go a little more up-tempo. There was a point after the All-Star break, maybe 10, 12, 15 games in after the All-Star break, where the Nets were top 5 tempo in the NBA. And so thinking that they want to play fast and the total coming down to 214, and Philadelphia, even though they go slow, they're so efficient. Let's face it, right? Even though they go slow, Embiid either winds up scoring or getting to the free throw line 18 times. Harden gets to the free throw line. So I don't know that I agree with this movement downward on the total, but I think that people just automatically knee jerk play totals under in playoff games because they just think, oh, well, it's the playoffs, everything tightens up. That's kind of true, but it's not always true. So maybe if they keep pushing it down, Skee, I may take a small shot at the over in that game.
Okay, fair enough. Rob liking a little bit of the over there. Bill McDonald said he liked Brooklyn plus the 8. Says MB will eat Claxton for lunch. And Brooklyn, one of those teams who's, I think they're the worst rebounding team in the league. Maybe another way that Philly can take advantage here, but I think it'll be a really short series. And Rob thinking you'll get a little bit more points than people are expecting in that first game. Bill McDonald asks, how much do you charge members? It's less than 20 cents a day to become a member. Kylie Reynolds says, hey, Skee, Vooch 11 rebounds, 20 points, 3 assists, plus 350 parlay. Do you like it? I'm not really into playing parlays. I do think Vooch has a pretty solid night. I think Rob was saying he had a double double in every game. Maybe you look towards that. I don't want to talk you off of your play, but I'm not a big parlay player. That's all I will say. Um, next series up, next game up, Rob. Atlanta and Boston. Atlanta is a 9 point dog in this first game. Total is 230.5 or 231. I just think we said this last year, and I'll shout out my boy Johnny because he's the big Atlanta guy. He's the big Trey Young guy. If there's Trey, there's a way, and we saw that in that game for them to make the playoffs. We've seen it plenty of times in the playoffs before. I think it applies here because you can no longer just trap Trey and think that nobody else can beat you on the team with Murray over there. So I like it. I think Atlanta offensively can compete with Boston, and if I like Atlanta in games, that means I like the over because they don't play a whole lot of defense. And I was considering, um, Atlanta are over 5.5 games in the series is plus 150. But when I think about that, that means Atlanta has to win 2 games here, right? And I do think they can at least win one. I want to say that they can win two, but when you're getting spreads like 9, I'd probably be better off than betting that game, that prop right now, just betting Atlanta plus the 9. Um, and if they were to lose, I'll probably come back. I do expect them to win one game at home for sure. So, what do you think about all that I've been saying? Do you like the over? Do you like Atlanta? What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I just go back to the beginning of the year, and when I watched Atlanta the other night, it just brought back to me that to start the year, we expected Atlanta to be really good when they acquired DeJounte Murray, and they kind of stumbled their way through the season. But when push came to shove the other night, and they had to win, they looked pretty good doing it. They've got so many players. I mean, Hunter and Collins are good starting forwards, and Capella was a beast the other night. And I don't know that he'll be the same 21 rebound guy against Horford and Williams, but Atlanta's got players. I thought they may have gotten shortchanged here in team total on this game. If you like total over and you think the Hawks are going to score, the Hawks team total is 111. To me, that's kind of short. I always think of the Hawks as like a 115, even a 120 team or better all the time. So Boston, at the pace they play, Atlanta's going to get plenty of opportunity, and they don't fear anybody. They just don't fear anybody. So I could see them coming out and maybe scoring more than 111. That's another way to look at it. I think if I was going to play total, I'd be on over. I know our good buddy, I was on the NBA tip-off show yesterday. Our buddy Tony Finn laid out a really good case for playing over 230. It since has moved to 231. But he made a really good case for over there. I don't know how significant. You tell me, how significant do you think this Jaylen Brown injury is? If it's of some significance, being that it's on his shooting hand, +9 could be a lot of points in a game like this for the Atlanta Hawks. Remember that Boston hasn't played in how long? And I know this rust versus rest is always best answered after the game is over, but Boston could be a little bit rusty. I know they shoot great at home. So we always have to fear that, but 9 points is still 9 points. And Atlanta's got a game under their belt this week. Boston hasn't played in quite some time.
I agree. More than 4 days, it gets to become a little bit rusty there. Do you think that's a reason to maybe take Atlanta first half, and maybe Boston knocks off that rest in the second half?
That, you know what? It makes sense. It really does make sense because Atlanta, every playoff series I've watched in the last couple of years, excuse me, when they go on the road, and Trey Young takes that villain role very, very seriously, but they do come out and pretty strong. I'd have to go back and look at numbers, but just off the top of my head, when they go on the road, they come out pretty strong initially. So I would look at that, Skee. I'd probably look into that a little bit deeper here because you're getting a pretty good price with this Atlanta team.
All right, good stuff on that game. Jay says he definitely thinks Atlanta can steal a game or two. Um, Justin saying we paid for his trip. How can you not be a member? I'm glad that I'm happy for that, and enjoy your trip there, Justin. Um, we did pretty good on Atlanta. Let's keep it moving. These are going to be short and sweet. We'll do more work on them later. New York and Cleveland. Cleveland opened as a 6-point favorite in this first game, down to 5.5. Total open 216, down to 215.5. Cavaliers, great at home. Don't have a winning record on the road. New York, if I'm not mistaken, does have a winning record at home. Great point spread team on the road. I would probably, now that I'm thinking about it, lean towards taking New York plus the points here. My thought process was if the Cavaliers are not going to win a game on the road, That gets me to Knicks plus 1.5 games. I just didn't pull the trigger quite on it yet. Um, I do think this is a series that will, maybe go to game 7 here. Do you feel that same way?
You know, and I don't have a lot to say on this game because I cannot make up my mind on the game itself. Um, Series, I think, is tight. But the one thing I want to point out that I keeps running through my head is I don't know if this Cavaliers home court thing is wearing off or not, Ski, because the last 6 games they played, 1-5 against the spread at home. And I know it was a great season overall, but the Knicks home court to me is a little bit stronger than the Cavs home court, to tell you the truth. I mean, Knicks first half at home has been like gold all season long. The matchups, when you match these guys up against one another, very, very good matchups. Cleveland, I don't know. They may have a bit of a rebounding edge, Ski, but it's not much. I just wonder how Julius Randle comes back to the floor. That's all. First game, it may take him some time, and maybe the Cavaliers' first game is good, but I haven't played. I can make too many cases both ways. So, series wise, I didn't take a look at what the price was for betting the Knicks plus like a game and a half.
It was minus
Um,
130 or minus 135.
this just looks like a 7-game series to me because the Knicks at home have been really, really good. So maybe that's an avenue to take. But I'm going to watch the first one, I think, and then just approach it from there. The Randall thing bothers me first game out. I think the Cavaliers might be good game one, but we'll see.
Yeah, it does bother me too. Is he officially out? I did see that he was struggling to get to practice. I guess that's a cause for concern. It is Friday, right? So, um, maybe don't expect Randall to be out there as of right now. A couple more comments before we move over. Jeffrey says, asking about Brunson points. Dude, I do think Brunson will have a good game. He has experience, and I do think he can have success there. He also says, Cavs better at guard, Mitchell and Garland. Hey, put some respect on Brunson's name now. That's just all I'm going to say. Jeffrey says, mess up the rhythm first game. Might take Cavs if he gets rolled in, talking about Randall.
Mm-hmm.
And have a comment here saying New York Knicks in 6. Knicks bench is better. So a lot of different opinions there. Let's get to the last game of Saturday, and that is going to be Golden State and Sacramento. Opened up, or we're still seeing Sacramento -1. Total open 237.5. We're looking at 238.5. Wiggins is supposed to be back into the lineup, but only on a minutes restriction, only getting like 20, 25 minutes. I mean, he hasn't played in forever. So with that said, I think it takes some time for him to get back acclimated. He's a big part of why Golden State has struggled defensively throughout the season, especially on the road. Them getting Gary Payton Jr. or Gary Payton II, however you call him, getting him back has helped a little bit in that regard, but or helped lately. But you need both those guys to be playing well for me to expect Golden State to play good defense, especially on the road, and especially versus Sacramento's team, whose offense is this potent. So all that said, in this first game versus Sacramento team, who their first playoff game in I don't know how many years. I don't remember the last time the Kings were in the playoffs. It might be them playing the Lakers back in like 2000, early 2000s. Uh, I honestly can't remember. So I know they're going to be hyped to have a playoff game at home. Um, and I do think they can sneak out a win. So I'm not going to bet Golden State. I think if I was betting that first game with Wiggins on the limit, I'd probably just go with the over. I do trust Golden State to score, and I do trust Sacramento to score as well. How I chose to play the series, this is when I did get involved with. Um, I think you have to take Golden State, whether you take it, I think this series is going to go 6 or 7 games. But I wouldn't be surprised either if Golden State loses one and then just pummels this team. So I think you can sprinkle a little bit around. Golden State in 5 is plus 425. Golden State in 6 is plus 245. Golden State in 7 is plus 575. You can take away one of them if you don't think they're going to win in 5. But if you put 2 units on each, as long as Golden State wins the series without a sweep, you'll make profit. You'll make either 0.9 units, a little bit over 4 units, or a little bit over 7 units. So I think that's the best way to approach this game because I'm not paying minus 260 something for Golden State to win. I'm just not doing it. So That's my thought process on this series. Do you think Kings can sneak out a win in game one? Do you think it's an over game? And who do you trust in the series?
Well, I mean, trust is not even a question, right, Ski? We trust Golden State in a series. How can you even? I don't know how you could defend saying you trust Sacramento. We have nothing to go on to say that we could trust them. Now, the one thing we have is that their head coach is Mike Brown, and Mike Brown's been on the sidelines with Golden State through their title run last year. So, if anybody knows what Golden State's gonna do in a playoff series, it would be Mike Brown. Whether or not his players can go out and execute his game plan to win a series remains to be seen. But we trust Golden State for sure, where that's where that word is going to be used. It's another weird series season wise where they played 3 games. Out of the first 13 games of the year, Sacramento played 3 were against Golden State. Sacramento covered them all. And then they just played last week, right before Easter Sunday, and Sacramento played nobody, probably by design. Let's just not even throw anybody out there, period. And Golden State whacked them by 22. So it's hard to tell how the matchups are going to be. I think Sabonis could be a difficult matchup for Golden State because Golden State likes to go with the death lineup, and Sacramento can really return one of their own against them, which leads me to believe it's going to be a high-scoring series. But the odds maker makes us get to 240 to cover a number here. That's tough. Where Andrew Wiggins is concerned, I think you said it, but last year, Ski, during the playoffs, you could sit there and debate that he was their best player for the last, month and a half of the season, as far as filling every statistical category is concerned. Now, if he can come back and just get some boards and play the defense that he's capable of playing without even really scoring a bunch, that's huge for Golden State. I think I would lean toward, I think I would still lean toward over in that first game. The problem with it is that, again, we're running into a whole bunch of these teams that haven't played in a week, and you don't know what you're going to get first quarter here. Hopefully you don't get lousy shooting in this game because it's hard to overcome when you need to get to 240. But I'd have a hard time playing under with these two. I really would. So maybe a small look that way. I haven't bet it yet, so I don't want anybody running to the window saying Rob's on it. I'm following, I'm tailing. Not there yet. I'm looking at team totals as we speak right now. Golden State 119, or excuse me, Golden State 119 and a half and Sacramento 119. So one of these sides probably gets to 120 in the first game. Maybe I would try Sacramento, Saturday crowd at home, first playoff game. Maybe they get to 120 in that initial one. And like you say, once Golden State gets acclimated, could be off to the races for GSW.
Yes, absolutely. We know how dominant Golden State has been at home, especially regular season, but especially in the playoffs. So I don't think Sacramento wins one game in the Warriors arena. So Warriors sneak out one, and in Sacramento, the series could be over in 6 games. So we'll see how that one shakes out. We got 2 more series that we can talk about here really quick. We've been on for a while. Lakers and Memphis. This first game is minus. It opened up -3. We see 3.5 now for the Grizzlies. Total open 229, and it's down to 228.5. It looks like. For the Grizzlies, I think they have an advantage in this first game. They've been resting for forever. We can talk about rest versus rest, but this Lakers group is a tired bunch. They're fighting. They've been playing really good basketball to come in here and make the playoffs. LeBron and AD playing on back-to-backs, et cetera, et cetera. You can tell they're tired in that game versus Minnesota. So I do think, like I said, Memphis has been really strong at home all season. They got the rest advantage. I don't want to be betting on this specific game if I'm a Laker backer. So I'm not mad at anybody who wants to take the Grizzlies. But how I feel is the Lakers are still the team to win the series. Um, Memphis without Steven Adams is a huge deal. Because Jaren Jackson Jr. is a hack. All he's gonna do is get in foul trouble versus Anthony Davis. And when that happens, I mean, Lakers are gonna feast in the paint. So I just think about that. I trust the Lakers a lot more defensively than I trust Memphis right now, as far as in this matchup. And I think I should get involved now. just because I don't want to wait. I've been in a situation where, and I'll be specific because the one that I remember right now, Cavaliers versus Raptors. My thought process is, Cavaliers probably lose this first game, then they go on and win the series. I'll get a much better price. Game was fought tight all the way down to the wire. LeBron ended up winning the game last second for them. I couldn't get in on the series the whole rest of the way. I don't want to be in that position if the Lakers happen to sneak out a game one win. So I'll take a little bit of Lakers plus 130 to win the series. And if they do lose the first game, I think it's a good idea to come back and double back. What do you think about that, Rob?
Yeah, I like, I'm just thinking in my head, Dylan Brooks can't keep his mouth shut, right? He has to pop off again before this series and talk about how great it's going to be to take LeBron out of the playoffs here. So, I mean, just be quiet and win a series. Memphis, they always have to open up their mouths. It just, in my estimation, Skee, the one thing I looked at here was this should be an Anthony Davis series. You talked about Steven Adams, but when you add to it Brandon Clark, they're not that dominant on the boards the way they would be normally. So it should be an AD series here. Check into his props. I'm going to check into his props. Like you said, Jaren Jackson Jr. probably a hard time covering Anthony Davis, I would think. If Jaren Jackson is in that fouling mode, AD should find himself to the free throw line at least a dozen times a game if he really wants to. And I think he showed us, since All-Star break, he's really played well. So I would look at his props. I'm looking at an over series, to tell you the truth. I think the point totals are going to be pretty high in this series. I think the Lakers can score on Memphis in two ways. I do think LeBron and AD will have big series, both of them. And then on the other side, they can shoot the three, and their bench is they're so fast. So I think they'll score as well. Those are my initial two leans. I'm looking at this series game by game, playing overs, and I'm looking at Anthony Davis props because I do think he should dominate the paint in this one.
I would agree with you in that regard. I haven't really dug in on the props. I always think Austin Reeves assist just because that's been so good for so long now. But I do think AD is worth a look there, and we did a good job on that one. Let's move over to the last series that's available. We do have two more that we can't talk about yet because of the playing games that have yet to be determined. But the Clippers and the Suns. This first game, I see the Suns as a 7-point favorite. Total open 229 is down as low as 225.5. It looks like. I'm not buying the Suns team as much as everybody else is. I don't think they're as deep as they used to be. I don't think they have the chemistry that they, need to have. And they have three guys who are very injury prone, that they're very dependent on. So all of those things make me don't want to trust them, especially to be laying points here. I feel like down the stretch when they were playing and winning these games, it wasn't, for one, it's obviously not playoff basketball, but it wasn't very good opponents. That's my feel. I'm not looking at the schedule. It's just what I think off the top of my head. The Clippers, without Paul George, I still think they have, enough good pieces. I think Bones Highland can step up and provide some scoring for them, along with some other guys on that roster. And still, Kawhi has potential to be the best player in this series. I feel like he's shown that, he still can be that guy who was playing in the finals as long as he's out there on the floor. So all those things lean me towards Clippers plus 7. I do think, though, however, I like the Clippers the more the series goes on, just because Ty Lue is really good at making adjustments. Seems like he almost doesn't start coaching until game 3. So lean Clippers plus the 7 points here. I was thinking maybe you take over 5.5 games for the series because I think the Clippers can win too, even if they don't win the series here. And I really wanted to try to get Clippers plus 2.5 games. Only 1.5 games was available, plus 135. So if I feel that way, if I think they, like Teddy says, if you're betting a series, you're betting them in that next game. So I might as well be betting Clippers plus 7. And if they don't win, then I can come back and get the plus 2.5 price, and maybe they still can cover the game. So, like I said, lean Clippers plus, lean over 5.5 games for the series. I think it'll be more competitive than a lot of people think. Do you share that same sentiment as me, Rob?
Yeah, bet I made on this series was Clippers plus 2.5 games. I bet this thing on Monday or Tuesday, Ski. They were only minus a quarter. I looked middle of the week, it was already up to minus 150. So I think there was a lot of money behind me taking the same exact thing, Clippers plus 2.5 games. To me, at worst, if the Clippers do exit this series, the worst case scenario, they lose the series 4-2. Plus 2.5 games at that small price, minus 125, just seemed crazy to me. So I played that. I think there's a toughness advantage for the Clippers here. I don't consider the Suns tough at all. In a playoff series, when you have to scrap for every single ball as the series goes on, I don't see those guys on Phoenix, but I see them on the Clippers. I mean, say what you want about Russell Westbrook, but I know he's going full bore for every rebound, for every loose ball, for every everything. And they've got a number of those guys on that team. I like them on the boards here. DeAndre Ayton against Zubats. I mean, he could get exposed. DeAndre Ayton is considered a little bit soft, and you see it when he plays. I think so. I think that as well. I like the Clippers plus the 2.5 games. I think that I'll probably be betting this individual game by game as the series goes on. This may be a good in-game series as well. Watch how these things start and then get involved. I don't want to see Bones Highland punching Mason Plumlee again, or Miles Plumlee, whichever Plumlee it is. I mean, I don't need to see that fight on the sidelines. But Plumlee's another good reason to like the Clippers, because when Zubac comes out, I mean, if nothing else, he's tough on the boards and tough physically inside against a Phoenix team that's shy where those types of players are concerned. So I like the Clippers plus 2.5 games. Bet it. I think I don't see any reason why you still wouldn't bet it, to tell you the truth, Skee. I mean, you took a different approach and said over 5.5 games. We're really saying the same thing. Um, as far as that's concerned, I think at worst case scenario, it goes 6. Clippers get a couple, and they could win this series. Like you say, what happens if Chris Paul gets hurt? We've seen it before in the playoffs. I mean, case closed if that happens. So give me Clippers series plus 2.5 games.
I like it. I just didn't see it available, or I still would bet it myself. But maybe I need to take another look for that plus 2.5 games. I do like that play quite a bit. I think the Clippers will be competitive in that series. We did a really good job here today, Rob. We touched on everything that is going to be played, minus every game that we can talk about that's been set as far as a matchup so far. So we did a great job there. Now, after being on for over an hour, it's that part of the show where I ask if there's anything that you would like to promote, and maybe out of everything that we talked about, you have one bet that you like a little bit more than the rest.
Well, we'll promote Wager Talk, wagertalk.com. For those of you watching us here now, if you haven't already, just go to wagertalk.com, drop your email address. You'll get free instant access to all the video content they provide as a company each and every day of the week, every sport covered, almost every game covered. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find something that you want to bet that isn't covered on a daily basis at wagertalk.com, either written or on video. If you're interested in selection packages, I do have plays for NBA up and available tonight. I do have football for the weekend, or will have football for the weekend. Excuse me. It's not posted yet. I will have football for the weekend. USFL and XFL are going to cross paths here on Saturday and Sunday. XFL's been good to me this year. Number one handicapper over at Wager Talk where that's concerned. And we look to get off to a fast start in USFL as well. For the show, Skee, as you mentioned, we've been chatting these things out for quite a while. Hopefully we're helping the folks watching your show here. Hopefully they can make some money off of what we've said. I'm going to go back to what I said about the Sixers in the series, minus 2.5 games. I laid $1.48, but I do think they're either a 4-1 or a 4-0 winner in this series. Just living in this area, there seems to be a little something different. The way they finished out the end of the season, um, I go back to the game where they did not play Joel Embiid against Nikola Jokic in Denver. They took a lot of heat from the fans here. They took a lot of heat nationally. But the long-term picture is what they're worried about here. And I think they get through the first round pretty easily against a team they overmatch or outmatch physically. So give me the Sixers minus 2.5 games for the series against Brooklyn, minus about $1.50.
Great bet. And I did see that start to go up a little bit depending where you shop. The book that I was personally looking at, it's the same bet here. Under 5.5 games was a little bit cheaper. because at the book I was looking at, the 2.5 games went up to -175, and the 5.5 games was -160. So same bet. Make sure you guys are aware of that, and just making the best wager that you possibly can. And I do like that bet route. For myself, for best bet, I'll give you two, just because I want to give you something for today, and also I like something else long term. Um, you guys can call me biased. You call me whatever you want. I think the Lakers are the right side. You're getting plus money to take them. They may not win game one. I'm letting you know right now. I'm still not worried. I think they win the series without Steven Adams. Grizzlies are not going to get it done. They're not going to hold down the paint. So I like that. Then the game that I want to share for today as the best bet, we will go Chicago plus the 5.5 points. We are not trusting Scam Adebayo. We're not trusting Tyler, not a hero. We're going with the team who got that dog in them. We're going with Chicago Bulls plus the 5.5 points. So I appreciate you, Rob, for taking the time to come talk the games out with me and share all this info. You're helping me out. I'm sure you're helping everybody else out there in the chat. And I appreciate the chat as well. I always say you guys are the best. You guys make this show entertaining, and you guys share a lot of great information as well. So if you guys are liking the show, you enjoy what we're doing, if we're helping you make some money, hit the like button for us. It does help us out. If you want to know when we go live, go ahead and subscribe. You'll get that notification. And if you want to get things early, take advantage of all the perks that we have here. You can become a member for less than 20 cents per day. So, like I said, I appreciate you guys. Best of luck on all your action. I will be on here again tomorrow. I believe Mr. Ravino gets a break, and I'll see you guys then.